I can't sleep. How can you? Oscar nominations are going to come out any minute. And there are way too many pictures for those 5 Best Picture slots. I count at least 7 or 8. So what's going to make the cut? Let's go through this together. First of all, let's start with No Country for Old Men. That's a no-brainer. People in this town are just crazy about this movie. And if there's one thing that propels a movie into the Best Picture race, it tends to be who directs it. Everybody in this town is saying the Coen brothers are way overdue. They're way overdue. I don't know why. They're only 50 years old. They've only been nominated in the Best Picture race once before. But be that as it may, it looks like it's a lock to be in there and may even be the front runner. It also looks like there will be blood in the Best Picture race. This movie has been voted Best Picture by the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, by the National Society of Film Critics. It's been nominated by BAFTA, by DGA, by PGA. It's pretty much run the board. That means it's probably a lock for a nomination. Also, it's that big, sweeping epic that they love. And it's director-driven and performance-driven. The one thing that it has going against it, by the way, is, and watch out for this, a lot of Oscar voters have not actually seen it. They go, I don't want to watch that movie with blood in the title. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It has so many passionate supporters that this is where the preferential ballot of the Oscar system really benefits a movie. Now let's take a look at Juno. This is really interesting. This movie has been nominated by the Producers Guild. Small wonder, it's a producer's dream. This movie was made for $2.5 million, and it's already reaped $75 million. Also, it tends to fit that profile of the little feel-good movie that makes it into the top race. You know, like Chocolat, Little Miss Sunshine, The Full Monty. The problem is, it's a comedy, and sometimes Oscar voters just don't take those seriously. On the other hand, it has a lot of passionate support, so it should have enough of those #1 votes to make it into the top 5, too. Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Now, this is interesting. I think Julian Schnabel is a lock for a nomination for Best Director, certainly. He could even possibly win. The problem with this movie is its subject matter. It's about a paraplegic. Remember that movie a few years ago, The Sea Inside? It won Best Foreign Film, but that was only because in those categories, voters actually have to watch the movie. Everybody thought that Javier Bardem was going to be nominated for Best Actor for Sea Inside. It didn't happen. Why? Because they didn't watch the movie. So even though there's all this carrying on about Diving Bell going on in Hollywood right now, are they really watching this movie or just saying these things? Look, there often is that little foreign language film in the top 5. Look, like Il Pastino, or just last year, Letters from Iwo Jima. So it does have a good chance of making it. What about American Gangster? This is really interesting. If you look through the lists in past years of the top grossing movies of a given year, let your eye fall down on the top grossing serious movie of the year. Last year, it was really The Departed. The Pursuit of Happiness was up there too, but among the Best Picture contenders, that was it. In previous years, A Beautiful Mind, American Beauty. Are you beginning to see a pattern here? The highest grossing serious film of the year almost always gets nominated for Best Picture and often wins. This year, it's American Gangster. It's earned $130 million. So don't write it off, the Best Picture race right now. And also keep in mind the studio behind it, Universal. This is the same studio that got nominations for Best Picture against the odds for Seabiscuit and for Ray in recent years. Now let's look at that wild card, Into the Wild. This is the movie that got nominated by DGA over Juno, which was the preference of the PGA, the producers of course. No small wonder. This is a movie directed by one of those actors turned directors, Sean Penn. We know how much Hollywood loves those, not just at the Oscars, but also at DGA. We're talking Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, Clint Eastwood, that whole crowd. But will this translate into the Oscars? That's a different story. Sometimes we see stars like Barbra Streisand not translate over from the Guild to the Oscars. There are other times like Ron Howard, child star of the Andy Griffith Show, of course, win DGA, not even get nominated at the Oscars. So maybe they've just gotten a little carried away about Into the Wild this year, and we won't see that on the Oscar side. That's possible. What about Michael Clayton? You know, you don't often see legal thrillers nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, but this town is Clooney crazy. And his popularity alone could carry that movie into the top 5. Where there have been legal thrillers in the past, of course, we've seen The Verdict and A Few Good Men nominated for Best Picture. And in both of those cases, it was a matinee star, front and center, like Tom Cruise and Paul Newman, who carried the dramatic weight of the film, just like Clooney now. So it could happen again. Okay, so we now have 7 films up for the 5 Best Picture slots. We have No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, Juno, Into the Wild, Michael Clayton, Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and American Gangster. We haven't even mentioned 2 others. Atonement. Come on, this movie just won Best Picture at the Golden Globes. It's nominated for the most awards at BAFTA, and BAFTA is often a pretty good indicator of Oscar tastes. Just last year, for example, BAFTA correctly predicted 4 of the 5 Best Picture nominees at the Oscars, but this year, only 3 movies are in the running at BAFTA that could possibly be nominated at the Oscars, and one of them, American Gangster, is somewhat dubious, some pundits think. But Atonement has the big, sweeping, epic feel of a classic Best Picture winner. This is The English Patient, but with a trick ending. So let's not write it off. Oscar voters love these kinds of movies historically, so just because a couple of pundits are saying it's out of the race, don't necessarily believe it. However, if it is out of the race, we've seen a sea change in recent years that may carry forward into future Oscars. The fact that The Departed won Best Picture, that's totally against the pattern of previous wins. And this year, if No Country for Old Men follows that, we're looking at a very different Oscars than the type of award that used to automatically embrace the big sprawling epic like Out of Africa and The Last Emperor. But why, oh why, they have abandoned My Sweeney Todd, I just don't understand it. This is a movie that the New York Times says is close to a masterpiece. It's earned more money than Michael Clayton, a few $1 million more, and it's got that R rating and a few other handicaps too, like it happens to be about a serial killer and cannibalism. But for some crazy reason, those Oscar voters just get all squeamish about the blood in this movie. Oh, come on. They spill more of the real stuff down the halls of Hollywood studios every day. I think they just got something against musicals these days. Come on, it's no longer the era of The Sound of Music or Oliver. They'll vote for a musical these days if it's got Catherine Zeta-Jones and Nicole Kidman as shady ladies who want to go to bed with them. But God help a Dream Girl or a Sweeney Todd. There's just something just too Broadway about that, if you know what I mean. But come on, you and I both know. If this movie featured Clint Eastwood singing Nothing's Gonna Harm You, Not While I'm Around, they'd be checking off Sweeney so fast that this movie would slash its way through the Best Picture race victorious, and that creepy guy with a bad haircut in No Country for Old Men wouldn't have a prayer. At least he wouldn't sleep well the night before the Oscars. I think I can do that now. Just fine. Good night.